YouTube is a powerhouse for lead generation, but how can mortgage brokers use YouTube to generate leads? This is a question that's asked to me all the time. I get asked about it when I'm with clients. I get asked about it when I'm at talks. People always want to know how to utilize this incredible platform for lead generation. Now, if you don't do it, you will run the risk of being not obsolete, because I don't think you'll be obsolete, but I do think that you're going to run the risk of missing out on an absolute treasure trove of lead generation that is going to establish who the powerhouses are in the next probably 5 years when it comes to mortgage advice, because YouTube is such a phenomenal platform, which we're going to unpack. So in this video today, what I'm going to talk about is how does YouTube work? I'm going to talk about why is it such a powerful platform. I'm going to talk about why people are not using it, because it's very commonly not being used by many advisors. We're going to talk about what you should do as well. So the things you can do, the strategies you can do in order to generate leads from YouTube. So let's dive straight into it. So the first one being, how does YouTube work? So YouTube isn't a social media platform. It is not that at all. Many people get that confused. They think YouTube and they lug it in there with TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. It's not that at all. YouTube is a search engine. That's what YouTube is. To a point. It's a search engine and it's a media consumption platform. In other words, it's where people go to watch effectively like TV. It's kind of like Netflix. It's kind of like Google. It's a bit of a weird amalgamation of both. And now with the introduction of YouTube Shorts over the last few years, it's also becoming a slightly more social media-based media consumption place, but it's nowhere near the same as a TikTok or an Instagram or a Facebook at all. So it is a search engine predominantly. That's mostly how we're going to use it as a mortgage broker to generate leads, is through search. So search being that if someone is looking for something and they're looking for a specific thing on how to do something, that video will search, will serve that up to the person looking and say, look, this hopefully answers the question you've been asking. That's what it does, okay? But it also has a side of it which is known as browse. Now, browse is where if you ever log on to YouTube and you go onto the home screen, you'll see all these videos at the beginning of the home screen, or you'll see videos down the side. If you're watching a video, it'll say, you may also like down the side. That is known as browse. And what that is suggested videos that the algorithm has thought you might like this. And this is where it's more of a entertainment consumption platform, more similar to something like Netflix, because it's recommending stuff. This is also very similar to a LinkedIn or social media platform where it's like a For You feed. That's kind of what browse is. So YouTube exists in this odd place where there is both browse and search, but it is important to understand that they're two fundamentally different things and they require two fundamentally different strategies completely. So why is it such a powerful platform? Why does YouTube beat every other platform by a country mile? It's not even close. Well, quite simply because it's the only one really that if you make something once, it can be used again and again and again and again. It becomes a repeatable asset. It doesn't happen on other platforms. So for example, with myself, I'm getting about 1,000 hours of watch time per month on my YouTube channel. On this channel you're watching right now is about 1,000 hours of watch time, meaning that collectively about 1,000 hours have been consumed on content that I have made over the last year or two, every month without me doing anything else. That's very, very powerful. No social media platform is doing that. Most social media platforms, they're going to be pumping content out there that's coming out now and within the next day or two. If it's not relevant, if it's not, kind of really taken off and gone viral, which chances are with mortgage stuff, it's going to be near impossible, then it's gone. It's moved on to the next thing. So YouTube is not the case. It's a compounding library of assets that you can use and still generate your leads for years to come if they're done in the correct way. That's why it's so powerful. It's also incredibly powerful is that if somebody is watching one type of video, it will start to recommend more and more and more, meaning this is where that browse concept comes in, which is where if someone is liking search stuff, they search for you and then they watch that video till the end, you're all very much quite a large way through, their recommendations, their homepage is going to start being filled with your content and or other content like yours, which is again another reason why it can be very useful if other people are doing it, that you can all start to be successful off the back of each other's content, which is really, really cool. It's very, very cool, in fact. So why are people not using it? That's probably the $1 million pound question, is why are people not using it? Truthfully, it's because it's hard. It's because it's hard. It's because it's hard and it's not immediate gratification. It's a very slow process. it requires a lot more intelligent planning than a social media platform. It's just kind of call it as it is. That's what it does. It's much more difficult to get it off the ground. It requires an understanding of the type of content you need to make. It requires an understanding of maybe production a little bit more. It doesn't need to be polished or fancy, but it does have to have an element of deliverability that is less raw than it would be on a social platform. But it also is pretty difficult to try and get the audience. I was saying this to my best mate. I was chatting to my best mate last night on the phone. I was walking. We were talking about YouTube channels, and I was saying the hardest bit is getting that traction. It's getting the audience. Once the audience is in, it's actually relatively simple, because then it's just a kind of a flywheel effect. It compounds and it spins on its own, which is kind of how this channel works. You know, now I just make content and people watch it. It's kind of like that. Now, that is probably the biggest reason why people are put off by it, because the time sink, so to speak, the cost of entry, the barrier to entry is very high compared to most other platforms. They're 60-second videos. You get immediate gratification. A video does well, 200 views, 300 views, versus like you do a YouTube video, you might get 6 views, 5 views, 10 views, very small amount in comparison. Now, what people don't understand and why they get that wrong is that if someone, let's say you make a video on how to pay off your Help to Buy, or let's talk about that, like just picked up random one off the top of my head. That if someone finds that on YouTube, they've searched it. So if you have 10 views, those 10 views are not the same as if you made that video on a TikTok platform or something and you got 1,000 views. Because 1,000 views on that are people where the algorithm has just pumped that in front of them and they've got no thanks, and the view is like, nope, and they flip through it. With YouTube, those 10 views, they are people who've actively looked for it. They've searched and found that thing. So they have the problem that your content is solving. And you are saying, you got this problem, I have a solution. That's what's very powerful about it. And why it compounds slowly over time is that the more you do it, the better it becomes. But the vast majority of people are put off by the numbers, and because they, for some reason, think that they need to have massive views. And I've said this before, if you look at my channel, look at this channel here, if you look at all of my videos, they're about 100, they'll go from about 80 to maybe 200 views a video. But like I said, I'm putting in, from my perspective, I'm putting in anywhere between kind of 800 to 1,500 views every 2 days, and my which is what that's kind of the way the algorithm works. And like I said, about 1,000 hours of watch time a month, roughly. That's a lot of time being consumed. So that's why people struggle with it, and why they're not using it is because they're too busy looking at the numbers and the vanity sides of it, as opposed to really looking at what actually is going to work big time. So what should you do if you do want to use it? If you do want to use it, what should you do? Well, the first thing you should be doing, and this is the strategy, the very deep down strategy of it. So the first thing is you want to create what I call money videos. So money videos are a video where you are talking about the service you offer. It's not top of funnel. It's like the video that's going to call them to have like some sort of effectively call to action in it. So it's a video you're going to use that explains high value content, very high value content. They can also be known sometimes as hero content. So I'd call them money videos. They'd be called hero content, whichever one you call it. Effectively, it's a deep dive into something. And let's say if you're a first time buyer, it might be everything you need to know about buying your first home. That could be what we call a money video or a hero piece of content. This content should be anywhere from say 10 minutes to say 45 minutes. And it's a deep dive pieces of content. Once you've made that one per niche, okay, then what you do from there is you then make what I would call search videos, we've said before, so answering specific questions around that niche. So I would then go to ChatGPT or to Google Gemini or anything and say, can you give me the top 100 most search questions around buying your first home? And get all those questions and then make videos on every one of those questions. And at the end of those search videos, you do a call to action to say, if you like this video, you want to check out this one next on screen, and you add what is called an end screen, and you say you want to check out this video on screen, which is everything you need to know to buy your first home. And so effectively, all these 100 videos are going to point to the one piece of hero content, and that becomes a generic kind of funnel, okay? That's a funnel there. So search videos all around that, all going to this money video. Now, the layer below that as well is if you want to, then you can also start to bring in browse videos. So browse videos are more clickbait. So it'd be, this first time buyer made this massive mistake. Now, if you want to create, or for example, news, browse videos are very good for news. So interest rates being dropped by whatever percentage, about Bank of England change, or the 100% mortgage is now back, or any of those types of pieces of content, they're going to be browse content. They're going to drive much higher views, but they're going to drive lower intention, search intent, and lower kind of like they're not as good as the search views, so to speak, but they also will be time sensitive. So the 100% mortgage thing, it'll be all right for a week or two and then it'll disappear. But you can create browse videos as well, all of them of which point back to the money video. So at the end of the browse video, you're talking about 100% deposit, 100% mortgages. What you then can say is 100% mortgage, and at the end of it, if you're thinking about buying your first home, check out this video here, which is everything you need to know when buying that house. So you're always pointing them back using what you call an end screen back to money videos. That's what you're doing. You've got to point them back to money videos. Next thing you need to do here is you need to pick a niche, okay? You need to pick a niche that you know is something you want to do. Now, with a niche with mortgages, there's only really a few niches that are ever really going to work. You can expand them later, but there's only really three main niches. One is first-time buyer. Second one is buy-to-let. Third one is adverse credit. So first-time buyer, buy-to-let, adverse credit. The other three big, or I mean, we don't say adverse credit, bad credit, because you wouldn't use that word adverse. But they are the three main niches that are going to have the highest level of search traffic. Now, if you go deeper down certain niches, for example, I've got a client of mine who specializes in CIS, generates most of his leads through SEO. So doing YouTube videos on CIS is very important and a good idea, but he's not going to get loads of traffic from that, but he will be able to dominate his niche. So if you're in a very specific niche and you want to dominate that niche, bear in mind, you may never break 100 subscribers on the channel, which by the way is fine. You could dominate all of the video searches for that one niche. It's a smart idea. I have another client of mine who works with dentists, and that's what he does, just dominates dentists, his mortgage stuff. Very small subscriber rate, very few views, but it generates leads. So it's one of those things you can absolutely weigh up, but niching is very important. Generic mortgage advice, not the best thing to do, because people are searching niche specific. You can expand later, and maybe you want a channel where you cover all three of those: buy to let, bad credit, like first time buyer. You might move to first time home mover. You might expand into self-employed. Self-employed is probably another good one, to be fair. But those are the main three of those big ones. So you can expand these out, but start with one, do that money video, do the 100 search videos, maybe some browse news around it. And then once you've done that, maybe you move to another niche and you do 100 videos on the next one. You do one money video for self-employed, you do 100 search videos, you do a few browse videos whenever news is relevant to it, and then you carry on. You see how you can stack this stuff in. It's quite simple. And then the other thing you need to know when it comes to your videos is, what do you do on the money video? What's the kind of goal of the money video? At the end of the money video, the goal is, or not at the end, really throughout it, is call to actions. Now, there's two call to actions you want to be doing. Booking a call with me, which is obviously the case, and download my lead magnet. So downloading your lead magnet, you need a lead magnet. If you don't have one, use something like Go High Level. You can use that to get that. There's a link in the description if you want to check out Go High Level to learn more about how you can use that. You can check that out. But you want to have a lead magnet that takes people who are not quite ready. Now, these are the two things I'm really ever interested in, is lead magnets and book calls, because they're the only two things that show that people have high intent to actually work with you. So a booked call is obviously going to be the best one. A lead magnet is, if they're not quite ready, they're a passive prospect, they go in and then they're going to download the guide or whatever it may be, and then they're going to be emailed hopefully every week for a year minimum, and they're going to be emailed to remind that you exist, keeping them in the kind of ecosystem. Now, how you would do this in the videos is in the search videos, you wouldn't really promote any of them. You might promote the lead magnet a little bit, but you wouldn't really promote much more. But in the money videos, you start this off and you say, everything we're going to talk about today about buying your first home, we're going to unpack everything you need to know. Now, if you are ready to buy a first home and you just want to ask me a question straight away, you can come and book a call with me if you want to. So you add the book call to action right in the middle, right in the beginning. Then what you would do is then halfway through that, you would then promote the lead magnet. So halfway through, you say, look, I've also got this guide that's top 5 mistakes first-time buyers make. You want to download it, you can get it. It's in the description right now. And at the end of the video, make a real call to action of this and say, look, if you're here now, you've reached the end of this video, what are you waiting for? Let's book in and let's have a call. Just use the link at the bottom. So you're calling them out, because if they're only going to see it at the end, that's what you do. So 2 call to actions, and 3 kind of things. Right at the beginning of the video, book a call, middle, lead magnet, and the final one, book a call again. So you're kind of top and tailing it with a bit of a sandwich in the lead magnet in the middle. That's how you use YouTube. YouTube is not that complex. People make it way more complex than it needs to be, but it's just harder and takes longer to do than most people. Right now, there is pretty much 1-2 advisors who are actually successful on YouTube and make it work. And the reason is because they're just willing to do it longer than everybody else. This is going to change. It is fertile ground right now. And anybody who wants to utilize YouTube to be successful, now is the time. Because as more and more people come into it, it's one of those things of all ships rise in a high tide. But if you've already established yourself, you're going to be the person who could be established as a dominant player in this space. So what are you waiting for? Pull the trigger.